I want to show you how you can control Reaper remotely using an Xbox controller. So in this series, in this first part, I'll just show you how you can control it from the normal keyboard, taking input. So the have Reaper opened here. We'll be using Unity also. So let's just create a project. So we'll be using Unity to take the control input from the Xbox controller eventually. We'll just call it Xbox. The Xbox controller, just call it controller. I don't know. OSC. That's what it's the framework we're using is called. OSC control. Right. So we have to download the framework. So it's free. We can just get it in the asset store. So it's called EXT-OSC, and let's just get it by Vladimir Sigalkin. So thank you, Vladimir. Awesome. And I just import everything from it. So that's actually a lot. So and I honestly don't know what half of it is doing, or less than half of it. But and I usually. So there are some example scenes, so it's just a getting started scene that we'll be using, and I'd like to just save it again as own scene. So just I don't know, Xbox control. Xbox control, right? And let's delete the sample scene. Right, so Xbox control, and yeah, so we have in the sample scene here we have the OSC Manager responsible for setting up the connection, and then user interface, and then these two objects. So we can actually delete the receiver, because for now we won't be dealing with taking data back into to Unity, just sending. So that's from the transmitter. So we'll be using the transmitter script. So I want first to show you the connection. So in the manager, you both have you have a receiver part and a transmitter part, because the local port is set to 7000 in both of them. So we won't be using the receiver anyway, but it's good to change it. Otherwise, there will be a conflict with setting it up in Reaper. The same port, setting it up in Reaper. So let's just change it to 9000 or whatever. But the transmitter, so this is the one that is important, the 7000. So it's on the remote host, so that will be picked up by Reaper. Sorry, the local host 127.0.0.1, and the port is 7000. So we should need to set up the correct port for it to work. So let's do that. So back into Reaper, and this is just a normal Reaper project. There's nothing special here. In preferences, we have down on the bottom, control OSC web. I already have set up one with the OSC open source control, I think it's called. But I can show you how to do it. So you just making one, you just add one, create a new one, then we choose the OSC, and we just call it Xbox control. The pattern config is pretty important, because this is where all the what do you call it? The definitions are for how to communicate. So you can open config directory. You can see what the default one is. So I'll just show you. So that's the default one. So this is the actual, all the definition for how to actually communicate. So you can also go through it yourself and try out. You can basically just try out how the communication works. So here this is you're somewhat limited in what you can control in Reaper by the definitions in this document. I don't know really if you can add to it, but it's a bit of a complicated process. But for now, you can do a lot. So we have the like the normal control things like play, pause, record, and all that, and rewind and forward and everything. But what is really cool is that we also have, if I scroll down here, see, these ones are MIDI. So we can actually send MIDI data to Reaper. So we can control all our MIDI devices and everything from Unity, using, as an example, an Xbox controller, but really you can use whatever. Alright, so we will come back to this for the correct messages. So let's just, here in control surface settings, we will be, I usually just choose this one, configure device plus IP plus local port, but I think you can use the receive only also. So but this is basically if you want to send information back to Unity. I haven't worked with that yet, so that'll be for another video. So here this is important because the local listen port we set to 7000. So it has to correspond to what we have it set as in Unity. And here you can the listener is pretty good because you can then listen to the port. Put it on here. OSC listen to port. So now it's listening to port 7000. And let's then open Unity. Shoo. As you can see, let's just try it and hit play and see what happens. So we're playing it, and let's go back to Reaper, and there you get that. So we're actually getting inside Reaper a message sent from Unity using this framework. Okay, now we want to, so let's just, okay, it's working now, so we don't, actually let's just leave it because we want to see what the messages we are getting are. So back in Unity, stop it. So this is the script responsible for the message being sent, and as you can see, it has the OSC Manager as its transmitter, so they're communicating like that. Let's just open it in Visual Studio and see what we can do. Alright, so let me just, and then let's have the definition document next to it. So for now I just want to try sending a MIDI node. Simple as it gets. So if we open it up, okay. As you can see, this is where the string has been defined that we are eventually sending with the message. So we want to define our own ones, and it's easiest just to do it, just make an update function and just. So let's just start with space input. So this first part will just deal with space keyboard input. So we'll be using get key down and then get key up, because that way we can control. It's like hitting a real keyboard piano. And let us just take the space bar. We can also do something else. It's pretty basic. Oh, and we also want to set it up for the release. Whoops, what's going on? Whoops. Else if get key up. Things like this, yeah, space. And let's just debug it as well. Alright, so let's get to the actually sending the message. So we can actually just copy what we have here, more or less, and just change it a bit. So we need an actual address. Because this is just sending a string message, and we want to send MIDI message. So if we look at our document, this is the default definitions, and it says, so we can just say if parameter value is 0, note off, otherwise note on. So we want to be sending. So actually it doesn't matter what we send. If we're not sending 0, then the note is on. So this is actually just note on off. It's not velocity, like how hard you hit it or anything. So let's copy it. So you see the I stands for the integer. So we can just copy it from here. Oops. And then we want it as a string. String MIDI node message equals. Now, so we can set the channel as well, but the way that it works is if we want to use the MIDI channel 1, we have to set a 0 here, because in here it's from 0 to 15. It actually also says in the notes here, channel 0 to 15. Inside Reaper that is being translated to 1 to 16, because that makes more sense for normal people. Let us just take note 80. It's just high up note. So that's the MIDI note message. That's the first part. Now then we want to encode. I have to change it here. Let's just copy it. Copy. Sorry. MIDI note message. That's the one. So it actually should say MIDI note address. Like that. MIDI note address. Okay. Oops. So the message new is MIDI note address. New OSC message MIDI note address. Message.add value. So here we have to change it because it says dot string and we want to send an integer. So I remember correctly. Let me just delete all of it. Whoops. OSC value, and we want to send an integer, and then you have to wrap it, put it in there. Sorry. And we want to send something that's not 0. So 0 was node off, and we want one key down. So we'll just choose 1. Then it's being sent, and that's why we added. Let's just do the node off, so we don't drive ourselves crazy with not being able to end it. So get key up space please. That's the same. New OSC message. Add value, and we want to change the value to 0. So let's see if it works. So first you have to remember that you need to run it in Unity. But the problem is that you need it in focus. So if you go back to Reaper, now Reaper is in focus, meaning that we got another hello world message, but if I hit the spacebar, then nothing will happen because Reaper is in focus. So we have to have Unity in focus. So you can just there. I'm going to put it side by side, and you can see it works, and you can hear the sound of native instruments massive. And we can hold it, and then on release it's being released. So that's really basic, and we can also just see that we can record it. So let's just, so it's, this is, you can see here what it's sending, and then it's also being, because I have armed, let's just see what's going on. Okay, see massive is armed and taking MIDI input. So, and we just have it to all MIDI inputs, all channels. We could change, because we're sending on channel 1, we could try and see what, if we can get the message from channel 2. We shouldn't be able to, and put, so you can see it's taking the space, and it's also sending it, but it's not taking anything because we set it to MIDI channel 1. And try. Yeah, now we have it. And we can also, just for the fun of it, record something. And then you have to go back and put Unity in focus. And it takes in the MIDI message. So that's enough for this video, I think. So part 2, we will start to look at I think just more advanced stuff, sending CC signals and hooking up the Xbox controller. So thank you for watching.